Hey guys, it's Merce. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. In today's video, we have a small book haul here. Cemetery Dance Publications reached out to me and asked me if I would be willing to review some of their books. And of course, I said yes. Cemetery Dance is the OG publisher of horror. I was pretty elated that they reached out to me. I haven't really reached out to a lot of publishers. It's sort of like on my list for this year to start reaching out to more publishers and asking if they would like to send me some books to review. So this was just really nice and it made me super happy. So they sent me 4 books. We're going to talk about them and see what they're about. They did ask me what my reading preferences were, just in like, you know, subgenre, and I was like, yeah, haunted houses, demons, supernatural. So they did send me some spooky stuff, so very excited about that. And I also have one book that came from Inkshares. They also reached out to me, which was super cool. So we're gonna talk about that one too. And I hope that you find something that knocks on your grave. The Ghost Tracks by Celso Hurtado is a YA horror book. This is from Inkshares. The story is about Erasmo Cruz. He lives in San Antonio in Texas, and he's one of those kids that kind of come from the wrong side of the track. His dad was a junkie who overdosed and passed away. His mother abandoned him when he was a child, and he was raised by his grandmother. Erasmo has a deep passion for the supernatural. So when his grandmother becomes sick with cancer, he comes up with a plan, and the plan is to open up a paranormal investigation company to make money so that he can help pay for his grandmother's bills and medications. Pretty soon, Erasmo is dealing with hauntings and exorcisms and everything in between, and he's beginning to find out that there's a lot of supernatural activity going on in San Antonio, Texas. I really love this cover. I think it's super pretty. I love the colors, and that the crucifixes make this like track, like train tracks almost. So of course this sounds really fun because it's supernatural. There's going to be hauntings, there's going to be exorcisms. We also have this young person with a very complicated past. It is YA horror. I hope it does have a little bit of an edge to it, but we will see. In the About the Author blurb, it says that Hurtado has also been a punk guitarist, has worked in the political arena, and has played entirely too many hours of Legend of Zelda. There is a quote here from John F. Dubois. When one is dealing with the authentically paranormal, exercise the greatest of caution and remain steadfast in your faith, as even the slightest of doubts will leave your soul vulnerable to the truly terrifying. The Eater of Gods is a novella from Cemetery Dance Publications. This is by Dan Franklin. I love this cover. It's giving me Stargate vibes. I've always been really fascinated with ancient Egypt, so I always am drawn to this kind of stuff. So I'm so excited that they sent this to me. So this story is about Professor Norman Haas, and he's in pursuit of his late wife's work. She had been searching for the resting place of Akhenaten's wife, Kia. Surprisingly, he actually finds the tomb of the ancient pharaoh's wife. But what's inside of the tomb are not just artifacts of the dead. And as the bag says, nothing really dies if it's remembered, but some things are best forgotten. And it also says here, Dan Franklin's debut supernatural thriller is a tale of grief, of loneliness, and of an ageless, hungry fury that waits with ready tooth and claw beneath the sand. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that Akhenaten, who is actually the heretic king of Egypt, he tried to unify ancient Egypt under one god. Didn't go over very well. But he came up with this really like interesting art style that I think is pretty cool, but it's definitely like outside of traditional ancient Egyptian art. So I'm going to assume that what's going to come into play here is probably that this ancient pharaoh who loses his wife, and this professor, Norman Haas, has lost his wife and now he's digging in the tomb of this other wife. You know, I feel like it's going to be all connected in that way. And so I feel like it's going to bring at least like maybe the emotional story together in that way, which could be pretty cool. But I wonder what is down there. Is it flesh-eating scarabs? Is it ancient gods? Is it the priests who protect the tombs? Like, oh, I want to know. Infinity Dreams by Glenn Hirschberg. It's a very cool cover. These A-frame like cabins and buildings or something are really, really popular here in East Germany. So if you go to camping grounds or something, you'll see a lot of these A-frame style. It's really nice. The synopsis for this book is extremely unusual. And I'll need to just read it to you because it's a little bit too difficult for me to paraphrase because it is so unusual. So let me just read it to you. There are people who collect coins, baseball cards, flashlights. They trade and sell them at conventions, flea markets, antique malls. These are not the people Nadine and Normal, aka the collector, serve. And those places are not where you'll find them. Their quests have led them to decidedly less familiar characters and locales. A music obsessive who gives a little more than fandom and takes a little more than music from the artists that he loves. A bucanista stall along the left bank of the Seine that has remained locked for good reason for 150 years. A box full of Viewmaster reels showing tiny photographs of places, some of which do not exist. A former in training, haunted to the point of life-crippling paralysis by a taste. By now, Nadine lives sequestered in the Northern California woods, caring for the collector, who has slid into early onset dementia. One day, against her better judgment, she accepts an interview request from a young journalist, who might not be a journalist. He has come for their stories, or maybe for something else. Meanwhile, down the coast in the cities, a wildness has gotten loose, and the world is tilting out of true, and the boundaries between reality and dream are not just blurring, but melting. But is that for better or worse, and who gets to say? Welcome to Infinity Dreams, a novel and stories about dreaming your life and living in dreams in the permeable limbo we insist on calling reality. I assume this journalist is also a collector going after other collectors, perhaps, but I know exactly who would like to read this. My boyfriend. He really likes these kind of stories. You know, he does not like horror, doesn't like any of that business that I read, but he likes this kind of thing. So I'm pretty sure I can get him to read this. This is not something that calls my name at all, you know, it's just not my thing. But there is one book that I like a lot that is not horror, but I love so much, and it's The Hike by Julie McGarry. And that's also kind of like this. It's like a dark fantasy, sort of like an Alice in Wonderland for adults. It's kind of like how I would describe it. It's very cool, and I love it. It's dark. It has a lot of dark humor. It's just a very well-told, dreamy kind of thing. The next one is The Touch of Night by Max Booth III. It has the cover is kind of funny because I kept thinking it was like Christmas lights, but it's police lights. It says something sinister is hiding in the small town of Percy, Indiana. On the back it says, Stranger Things and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre unite to form a blood-soaked matrimony of violence and corruption. This is a story about two 12-year-old boys who are kind of like causing mayhem in their really tiny, small rural town until a cop sees them and tries to, like, you know, stop them on the street. But this cop, there's something not right with this cop. It doesn't seem like he's being driven by the law. He's being driven by something much more sinister. These two boys end up missing, and their mothers are trying to get the police officers to, you know, find their sons, but they are denying that their sons have been abducted in the first place. So now the mothers have to take matters into their own hands. But they don't seem to get too far because there is a family of quote-unquote ungodly lunatics out to get them. So this story sounds like it's going to be a lot about corrupt police, law enforcement, secrets that small towns are always harboring and protecting, and gravitational oddities and ancient black magic. What? I'm sorry, gravitational oddities? Yeah, I'm into that. What is that? I actually hadn't read the last paragraph. I had just skimmed this earlier. So I had no idea that gravitational oddities was a part of this, or ancient black magic. That makes it an entirely different animal for me. Cool, into it. The last book that we have is Dancing with Tombstones. This is a short story collection. It's by Michael Arnovitz. Has this really nice creepy clown on it. Love a creepy clown. And what's interesting about this book is it's split up into 4 sections. The first one is Girls, Psychos, Tools and Tech, Martyrs, and Sacrificial Lambs. I like this splitting up. You know why? Because it kind of just tells me like exactly what the theme is. One of my issues with short story collections is most often, not all the time, but most often you get these stories that are, you know, they're all over the place. They're different things, you know, and that makes sense, you know, like I think people want variety, but I kind of want to know what the theme is. You know, like if someone had like a horror anthology and there was like a haunted house section, boom, I know exactly where to go and I'd be really happy about it. It's a really simple thing, but I think for readers, that helps us out a lot. So I'll just read you what the sections are. It's really, really short. So in the girls section, you'll learn how Bria died, and we'll also meet the sculptor in the story that inspired Aronovitz's full-length serial killer novel of the same name. For Psychos, you'll feel the chill of the Antichrist in Quest for Sadness, and fall prey to the most frightening circus creature on the face of the earth in The Exterminator. Tools and Tech. You'll find the dark secret of the tool shed, and also experience the full-length ghost novella, Toll Booth. In Martyrs and Sacrificial Lambs, you'll experience hell on earth in The Echo, and unwittingly release the darkest force of the forest in The Falcon. It sounds really, really good. I'm into all of this, what's talking about here, but I was also looking at this a little earlier and I saw that in the girls section, there's a story called The Girl Between the Slats. And this really calls out to me because when I was in high school, I don't know if this is a true story, but when I was in high school, I had a friend who lived in a trailer house type thing, but it was sort of like on this piece of land where it was like just trailers, and then everything surrounding it was like rural. Because the town that I grew up in, it was like it still had a lot of rural places in it, and you know, the trailer was, you know, kind of like one of those trailers that had like the fake wood paneling, and then it had these like vents for air to come in. And the girl that lived there, she was telling us that on that land, this man took his niece out into a field and did some terrible things to her. And that girl's ghost was now living inside the walls of this trailer, and that she would peek out between like the slats or the whatever of the air vents. So when I read the title of the story in there, I was like, oh, I totally forgot about that story. In the Psycho section, there's a story called Puddles. I don't think I have to tell you where my mind is going for that one. Ooh. So if you're a true crime lover, like me, like all of us horror peoples, you probably heard about The Boy in the Box. And if you haven't heard about The Boy in the Box, you should definitely look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of really good documentaries about it. It's a very mysterious and heartbreaking story. It's a story about an 8-year-old boy who is found in a box, just kind of dumped somewhere, and they never found out who he was or who did it or pretty much anything at all. So it was just a really sad story, but there is an illustration for this boy because this took place, I think, in the 50s or the 60s. So they did an illustration of the boy's face is it post-mortem? Yeah, okay, so like, after, okay, you know what I'm saying. And they drew it to likeness, and it is, it lives inside of my brain. It literally haunts me, and every time I see it, it's like, I just shrink away from it. I do not like it at all. Anyway, there's a story called The Boy in the Box and the Martyrs and Sacrificial Lamb. So I wonder if he's inspired by that actual true crime. So these were the books from Inkshares and Cemetery Dance Publications. Again, thank you so much to these publishers who sent these to me. I hope you guys found something here that sounds cool to you. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about a lot of what's going on here. It's just really nice. I love getting books, especially when I don't exactly know what it's gonna be. Like the Abominable Book Club boxes, you don't know what's coming. Like the Creepy Crate box, I don't know what's coming. And that is just like giving me everything right now. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're doing well. If you liked this video, please like and comment down below. If you want more videos from me, please hit subscribe. Other than that, please take care of yourselves and watch out for each other. And I will talk to you next time.